The news in Sydney comes as a bill was passed in Parliament in Canberra yesterday, which gives the government the power to cut funding to childcare providers that repeatedly fail safety requirements. Now, the laws were drafted after claims of abuse in the sector, and Carol Matthews is from the New South Wales branch of the Independent Education Union and is with me now. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
What is the legislation exactly that passed yesterday?
So the legislation that has passed gives the federal government the power to withhold funding for services which consistently fail to reach standards. So we think that's a good move. It's a bit of a surprise the legislative power didn't already exist, but it's good that this has now been passed.
How much safer will this one measure make centres and after-school care?
Look, I think it's clear that it provides a stick, you might say, to concentrate the minds of private providers. There's no doubt about that. But of course, we think it's very much the first step of what needs to be a much more comprehensive review of the approach that both state and federal governments have been taking to the quality of education and care and child safety.
I'll ask you about next steps in just a moment, but on this one measure, are you confident that it can be enforced? I mean, the assessment used to determine safety breaches need to be robust, they need to be comprehensive. Are you confident that there are measures in place and resources in place that this can be enforced?
Well, the legislation has just been passed, so I think you assume that there will be regulations which back up the way in which that will be administered. And because the power hasn't existed up until now, there are no current resources in place. So obviously it's an area where the government will have to move very quickly to ensure that is the case. So I think I would say that we are confident that it's achievable. I think, however, the practical problem, of course, facing parents and their children, if a service closes, will make government reluctant to exercise that power. So, that's clearly the issue, but certainly there's no reason why they can't enforce it.
Mm-hmm. Given the revelations out of Sydney yesterday of alleged abuse, are you aware if this federal legislation would extend not just to childcare centres but also to these after-hours, out-of-school hours care services, or USHs as they're known in Sydney?
Look, as I understand it, these services attract childcare subsidies for parents in the same way that long daycare does. So I imagine that, yes, the legislation would apply to these services.
And what is your reaction to what you heard from the AFP yesterday?
We're horrified, obviously, and I have to say that this latest revelation is different in a way from some of the earlier revelations in that it has allegedly occurred in services which are not-for-profit, which are in some cases attached and operated by schools and in some cases by local government. So these are all robust and experienced providers of the service. So it's, in that sense, it is different from some of the other revelations which were for-profit services, where it's easy to say, well, it's a for-profit service, maybe they didn't have the same staffing or the same standards in place. These are, from what I have read, significantly the list includes many not-for-profit services. So I think it's a real wake-up call for these services as well.
Is it a concern as well that it's reported that this alleged offender worked at almost 60 places over a 6-year period? I think it was 58 places.
Well, yes, but I mean, I'm not sure whether he was engaged casually or in ongoing employment. Obviously, it's quite common that there's casual engagement because if staff are absent, they have to be replaced to maintain ratios. So there is a lot of genuine casual employment in the sector, replacing staff on leave. So over the period, it does seem quite a high number. It is more common for people to work casually at a smaller number of centres on a regular basis, like first call casual, we ring you, and not over so many services. But if it was casual engagement, that would be part of the explanation.
Back onto the childcare bill, you say that this is, the first step of many. The Greens say it's reactive legislation and not enough to keep kids safe. What are the next steps that you would like to see to create genuine change and create more safety in the system?
Okay, so we are astonished that it is not currently a requirement that all staff are trained in child safety and reportable conduct, which is the reporting of either physical assaults or sexual assaults, that type of behaviour by staff. So in a school, it's absolutely commonplace that the school every year will conduct child safety training, reportable conduct training, and record that those staff have completed that training. So it's a compliance measure that schools enforce. As I understand it, in the early childhood sector, there's a requirement for one staff member only to be trained in this way. So we think that absolutely has to change. It should be all staff should be trained. We think that governments should provide training materials. It's not difficult. 1-hour online session that all staff have to complete once a year, and a record is kept of that completion. That training material should be provided free of charge. It would be a really easy thing for government to do. And I'm sure the New South Wales government would provide similar material to their schools at the moment.
That was going to be my question of clarification, just to round out this conversation, Carol. Which levels of government do you think would and should be responsible for this training? Because this legislation that was passed yesterday was a federal legislation, but we know that there are also state laws as well.
Yeah, so the state laws relate to reportable conduct, for example. I don't see why the New South Wales government couldn't provide that training. They oversight the enforcement of the national standards. So I think that would be a pretty easy thing for them to do. So we don't necessarily support the call, which some organisations have made, for a national commission in early childhood. But we do think there has to be a lot more coordination nationally. And I think it's in the past, possibly there's been a bit of a tendency to pass the buck, oh, that's a federal responsibility, oh, that's a state responsibility. And of course, there's been an emphasis on the provision of additional services, which we welcome, through fee support for parents in long day care. But I think there's preschools as well. State government has responsibility for them. Our union is calling for more funding for preschools. Some of the waivers for staffing have been granted for preschools in regional and remote areas. That's a concern because some of the staffing issues relate to the fact that wages in this sector are generally well below what a university qualified teacher could get, for example, in a school. So it's not a simple fix.
It's not a simple fix. It's a very complex system, and one that we need to have absolutely safeguarded for our children. Carol Matthews, thank you very much for your time.
A pleasure.